Hello, and welcome to Mike's, that's me, Top 10 Movies of 2012. Surprise, guys, I'm actually not doing a list because apparently I hate everything according to you guys, so I'll just be on my way. Oh, wait a minute, I don't! Here are my top 10 for 2012. I liked plenty of them, and I thought it was pretty easy to narrow them all down. There were a lot of good ones, a lot of bad ones, but we're gonna talk about the good ones. Let's start this top 10 list with number 10. That's what people traditionally do. And at number 10 is Wreck-It Ralph. Now, as soon as I left this movie, I realized that my face hurt. And I was like, why does my face hurt? Am I dying? And I realized that I was smiling the entire time. Wreck-It Ralph is pretty much a perfect movie for kids. The main issue with Wreck-It Ralph with people who don't like it is that they say, oh, there was nothing at stake. It was just video game characters doing stuff in video game world. And I think it worked perfectly for Wreck-It Ralph. Another thing that I was so afraid of for this movie was that it was just marketing video games. Kids like video games. They'll like the movie because they like video games. Turns out they were completely legitimate. They obviously care about what they were doing. And it was just pretty much great all around. The acting, the writing was hilarious. Probably one of the funniest animated, probably the funniest movie I saw this year, which is saying a lot. A cartoon character in a video game was funnier than anything, in my opinion. And my opinion is right. At number 9, we got The Avengers. Now, this takes a little bit of explaining. There's the big debate going on the interwebs that, what do you like better, Avengers or Dark Knight? And for me, it's instantly Avengers. The reason I say that is because Avengers knew what it was. It was a big blockbuster action movie for all family and ages to enjoy. It had, sarcastic quips and, all this fun stuff. And it did its job. It knew what it was. To me, Batman kind of didn't know what it was. It was trying to be a serious movie, and then there was goofy things happening. With the Avengers, I wasn't scratching my head going, why did that happen? Why are these characters doing this? It was just very solid. And there are a lot of solid movies, but the reason why I like this so much for being solid, because there was so much potential for it to be terrible. To have all of these superheroes written evenly and it to be solid, I think is a monument to Joss Whedon. It's like, that sounds like the impossible. I didn't think they could do it, but they did. At number 8, we got Looper. Looper has so many things that I love about movies in it. It's got Rian Johnson, he's a great director. Shane Carruth was consulting on it, and it's about time travel. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, all sounds great. Great everything, great action, great science, great time travel. I really wish this could have been a little higher or lower on my list, because the movie does suffer from a very, very slow second half. And I've said this before and pretty much it, but the movie literally comes to a screeching halt. Now, the second half is not bad. It's just when you have this big time travel plot with, they're killing people, people are being erased from existence, all this crazy stuff, and then suddenly we're at a barn with the kid and the mom for like the rest of the movie. Was it bad? No. Just unfortunately, I just wanted a little bit more out. When I heard they were making a time travel movie, Shane Carruth was consulting, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, I thought I was going to get a little more out of it. But what can you do? It's done. It's over. It's gone! At number 7, we got Cabin in the Woods. Now, I would have probably put this movie down by my number 4, 3, 2, or 1 section if I went in completely blind, because the plot is awesome. And unfortunately, it's kind of given away in the trailers that what's going on. But if I had no idea what this movie is about, I just thought it was just some dumb horror movie, and then got this, I would have been... my brain would have exploded. It has some of the things that I love best out of movies. Originality and great writing. And I guess we can thank Joss Whedon for that. And not to mention, it's drastically different halves of the movie. Like, we got this horror movie in the beginning, this kind of sci-fi thing in the middle, and then the last half is full-on wacky craziness, and it works perfectly. There's really nothing I can think that was wrong with it, or nothing that I hated, so there you go. At number 6, we got Moonrise Kingdom. Now, this movie was, if you know Wes Anderson, you know his style, and if you're a fan of that, you will love this. Now, a lot of people out there like to dismiss Wes Anderson movies as hipster garbage, and I couldn't disagree more with that. I do agree that some hipsters out there like to emulate that style, but I do believe Wes Anderson has his own style of his own, and it's great. Not only is this a well-written and well-directed movie, it is an extremely good example of great filmmaking. The shots, the coloring, the angles of the camera, everything is just watching it. I could watch this movie with the sound off, and it would be like just a fun thing to watch with some music in my ears, something like that. And the story, it made me feel like a kid again. It's got this childhood romance thing, and I don't know how Wes Anderson did it, but it's like he got inside the mind of like 10-year-olds and made a movie according to them. Maybe he got into a time machine or something, I don't know. And also with the all-star cast, you couldn't go wrong with the acting. Everybody did great. Even the kids did great, these unknown kids, and they did fantastic. I wanted a little more. I mean, I love the movie, but I would have been a little happier if a little more than the plot happened. It seemed by the last half, I mean, by the middle to the last half, I kind of realized that this was going to be the plot for the rest of the movie, and I was like, I wish they did a little something more. But what they did was fantastic to me, and it was good. It was good. It was a good movie. I just want to be a kid again. At number 5, we got Beast of the Southern Wild, and usually what I say about movies, if you have a kid in it, your movie is doomed. Because there might be some kids who can act, but to be an actor, you usually have to draw from real-life experiences and all that kind of mamma-jam. And kids just, they don't got it. They don't got that kind of life that they can kind of pull emotion from unless they had some kind of really warped childhood with like a crazy actor, mom and dad kind of deal. But that brings me to my point. The little girl in this movie, Quvonne Janae Wallis, I'm probably getting that name all wrong. I could not believe the sounds that were coming out of this little human. It's almost like flipped my world upside down that they found a child, a very small child, like around 5 or 6 years old, I think. And she was the best actress in the whole movie. One of the best actresses, I'd say, this year. It was that I never thought I would ever say something like that. Now, on top of her amazing performance, the movie was amazing, and just in a filmmaking source, and an acting, and a character, everything was just a quality movie. And, I mean, I've been on movie sets before, and I know how hard it is to shoot a simple scene in the city. You gotta line up traffic and all this stuff. But with this movie, they're shooting in a swamp, on, like, boats and in shacks, and everything looks fantastic. Everything looks legitimate. And I really can't say more about this movie other than I love it. Everything is great about it, and it is a true example of a quote-unquote quality movie. Everything about it is quality. At number 4, we have Seven Psychopaths. Now, just to give you an example of how good the guy who made this is, I was disappointed with Seven Psychopaths only because it wasn't a masterpiece. It was amazing, and I loved it, but it was not a masterpiece, and I think that the filmmaker's other film, In Bruges, is a masterpiece. That's definitely one of my favorite films ever made. Getting on to Seven Psychopaths, everything about it was great. It had so many different tones going on at the same time, and each of them were right on key and perfect. It had some suspense, drama, and most of all, comedy, and the comedy was hilarious. Sam Rockwell, for me, definitely stole the show, but with an all-star cast, it was so hard to choose. Woody Harrelson, Christopher Walken, it was all of them great. I really can't get too in-depth with this movie because it's just really overall a great movie. There's nothing that I felt there was anything wrong with it. There were never any slow parts for me. Like I said, the only thing I found wrong with it was that it wasn't my number 1. And that is so far away from being anything close to a bad thing. At number 3, we got Django, or Django Unchained, as some people like to call it. Quentin Tarantino, you can't go wrong with him. The guy has a lot to say about his own personal opinions about the film industry, but there is no denying that he is a master behind the camera. With actors, with camera work, everything, the guy knows how to make a movie. It's everything you would expect from a Quentin Tarantino movie. The over-the-top violence, the amazing dialogue between characters, the amazing acting, and what I thought was one of the best things about it was that it is a very, very long movie. Very long. Probably one of the longest movies I've seen in quite some time. And only probably for a couple of minutes did I start to feel its length. Once it gets towards the end of the movie, I was kind of like, oh, it's over. No, wait a minute, it's not over. It's keep on going. And that wasn't a bad thing, but that's when I started to feel that length of the almost 3-hour movie. But if you can make that whole 2 hours and 45 minutes completely so enjoyable, then that's an accomplishment. Even the scenes where it's just two characters talking and there's nothing going on, I loved every second of it because I was just so interested to see where the scene was going, what was going to happen, and he delivered on all fronts. For these last two movies, it was very hard for me to pick what was going to be number 2 and number 1 because I think they are definitely some of the best movies I have ever seen. So at number 2, we have Excision. And if you haven't heard of Excision, I say look it up immediately because I know it's a not well-known film and it's not advertised a lot, and you probably haven't heard of it. But other than the fact that this kind of movie is so up my alley, it was just perfect. Everything about it was perfect. You can tell every single shot in this movie had a purpose. There was no shot in this movie where it was an afterthought, where the director was like, oh, well, we gotta have this happen, so let's just bang this out so we can move on. Every shot, the framing of the characters, the colors of the things on the table, everything was tailored perfectly. I wouldn't necessarily call this a horror movie, where it does get pretty intense and violent and gruesome. I would say that I probably like this movie as a horror movie than any horror movie I've seen in like almost a decade. I really can't remember any scary movie that got to me like this movie did. By the end of the movie, I was like in chills. I don't remember the last time a movie did that to me, and that's filmmaking. If you can do that if you can make something happen to a body, if you can affect a person like that, you've made a quality film, my friend. And my number 1 movie of 2012, The Oogie Loves on the Big Balloon Adventure. Never have I seen such great acting, great directing. I'm fucking with you. My number 1 movie of this year is a French movie, Holy Motors. Now, where do I begin? Where do I begin with this movie? I guess I could start by saying that it has everything that, as a film connoisseur as myself, want from a movie. Complete originality and uniqueness, amazing concept, amazing dialogue, amazing visuals. I don't even know how to talk about this movie, other than it's great. Just go watch it. But to get a little more in depth for it, it's one of those movies that it can be interpreted in many different ways. But the main underlining theme of this movie is a very, I never use this word a lot at the risk of sounding pretentious, but it is deep. I hate saying that about movies because it makes you say, oh, that movie was so deep, it had so many underlining tones. This movie actually was that. It had a somewhat subtle message about actors portraying characters, where the film industry is today, and it did it in such a creative and unique way. My brain! And above all of that, the acting from the main character, named Oscar, which I don't think is a coincidence. He was amazing, he was incredible, and the reason why he was so incredible was, the theme of the movie is that it's an actor going from life to life as different roles, like very drastically different roles, and he completely gets into all of these roles 100,000%. That he plays the family man, the weird monster guy, a video game motion capture artist, a dying man in his own bed. From musical to a hitman. I can't even begin to describe how so much of this movie is good and just completely perfect. And that it also is deep, which is very rare for me to say. I don't know if I can recommend this movie to everyone, though, because we live in a time where movies like this, people look at it and go, I don't get it, I'm gonna turn this off, and without giving it a second thought or anything. And I really think that if you're the kind of person who doesn't watch these kinds of movies, that please give this movie a shot, and please go in with a very open mind, Don't turn it off after 30 minutes because you don't get the idea of the movie. Even after it ends and you don't get it, that's fine. I understand. But please try. That's what we need. We need people to try. And with that being said, that's it. That's my list of 2012. 2012 was an interesting year for movies. It's definitely been a little bit better than previous years. 2010, 2011 were very hard for me to get my list together, but when I came in here this, I'm like, alright, I got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got it. So, I hope you liked it. I hope we can discuss it. If you don't agree with something, type it in the comments, and I'll read it, and I'll probably disagree with you, and we'll have a swell old time. I'm gonna play with this Mario toy. Oh, look out, Mario! Look out!